Single Monday from Grit Grow. Very excited to chat about that because today, what are we talking about, Laurie?
What are we talking about today? We're going to be recapping last week, but we're going to be focusing on thinking and our thoughts.
Yeah. Because last week, of course, we touched on being aware, self-aware, and it was about the emotions and the feelings and really being able to express oneself. I was thinking a lot about suppressing emotions because that's what I've been doing for the past week or so. Like, I want to be angry and I want to scream and I want to kick and everything.
But Candace last week said we've got to lean into them. We've got to acknowledge those difficult feelings because otherwise they're not going to go anywhere and they're not going to disappear.
Absolutely. So, of course, if you have any questions for Candace this morning, send them through via WhatsApp 084-822-0938.
Lehoko.
Wave after wave, wave after wave.
9 to 11 a.m. weekdays on Mix 93.8.
35 after 9, good morning to you. So it is time for Coach's Corner, and every single Monday we have Candace Besser in studio. So last week we discussed the first step to loving ourselves, self-awareness, the ability to tune in with our emotions and feel them and let the feeling pass. Candace, good morning.
Good morning, ladies.
How are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Good. How was the weekend?
It was calm.
Yeah?
Oh, that's nice. Sometimes we need a calm weekend, though, instead of one that's like
Absolutely.
pumped up like last weekend. Hey.
But
Yes.
now I'm thinking calm during the load shedding. How is that possible?
Well, I have a few skills under my belt.
Okay. So, Candace, this week we're talking about being self-aware and most importantly, being aware of our thoughts, right?
That's
So why is it important to really notice what we're thinking about?
Our thoughts have a direct impact on the feelings in our bodies. So if we're feeling overwhelmed, it's because our thoughts are overwhelming. It's not the workload. And the same goes with the feelings of loneliness, depression, anxiety. So really anything that we are struggling with. 90% of our thoughts are sitting in our subconscious. We don't even know that they're there. And that's where the havoc is caused. So they have the potential to make or break us. Noticing them is vital.
But now, how do we start noticing or itemizing those thoughts? Because it is such a subconscious act. So how do you actually tune into it?
It really is. And I think it's great for me to mention one of my favorite books that I tell everybody about. The author is Michael A. Singer, The Untethered Soul.
Yes.
And he describes that we really are not our thoughts, that we are the observer of our thoughts. So when there is something off in our thoughts, we're going to feel it in our body. There's going to be a discomfort in how we feel. So fear or sadness or irritation. And then so that goes back to self-awareness. And then Byron Katie, one of my favorite authors, has a quote that says, "Stress is like an alarm clock. It lets you know that it's time to do the work." We will know our thoughts need to be checked in with when we feel it in our bodies.
I want to come back to the subconscious story. You know, it reminds me of an image that I once looked at of the iceberg, where at the top of the iceberg, you've got the small piece of ice, which is whatever's in the conscious mind, and then this big piece of ice underneath the water, which represents the subconscious. And a lot of what we've left in the subconscious mind is what we see in our dreams, right? And I think that brings me to the question of, like, how do we unearth and unpack these things so that we lessen that load of what's in the subconscious mind?
That's a great question. For me, what really helps is to take out a pen and paper and to write it all out. There's something about journaling and starting to write it out where it all just comes flooding out. And then you're like, I can't believe I was even thinking that.
Okay.
And when it is in black and white on paper, you can take a step back and become objective, and you can look at them from a very different point of view.
What happens though if it's something that's completely out of our control? So for example, I'm just going to use, let's say I have someone in my family who's suffering from addiction per se. So it's not necessarily me, but it is my worries, my stresses. How do we actually wrap our minds around that, dealing with an issue that we are not in control of?
Nice.
Our stress is very pertinent. It's very valid. So the stress is there, but the suffering comes from the whole story that we add to it. So once you've written it down, you can take a look, and I like to ask myself two specific questions. What is absolutely true? And what is an assumption or a judgment? Most of the things that we are thinking are stuff that we've made up.
Exactly.
It's stuff that we are assuming. I like to use the story of if my boss had to come in and say to me, "Candace, you didn't send out the meeting invite," and then walk out. That's the only true part. I didn't send out the meeting invite. But my mind then takes over. I've dropped a ball. I've done it again.
I'm going to get fired.
I'm a terrible worker. I shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
I've messed up. And it's that I've messed up. Tell yourself that enough times in the day and then see how you feel at the end of the day.
One of the things that, has come to mind, Candace, is what they call cognitive distorted ways of thinking,
Yes.
right? And it is, different thinking styles that are totally unrealistic to the reality, right? So something happens, you overgeneralize. I've had one bad relationship, every single relationship is going to be bad, right? Another one is over catastrophizing, turning a molehill into a mountain. The other one, which I mentioned quite often on the show, is disqualifying the positives, right? So Candace, do you have any suggestions as to how we can stop those cognitive distorted ways of thinking?
Yes, we have to reprogram our minds because they've been there for so long. As long as we've been on this earth is really how long they've been going. So there's many different tools that we use. So meditation is definitely one of them.
Nice.
A mantra. Every single morning when I wake up, I come up with some kind of a positive mantra that I just repeat over and over again. Another thing that I do is when I'm on my own, I like to speak out what I'm thinking. So instead of sitting with quiet, I probably sound really crazy to people around me.
No one's
They
watching.
say you're only really crazy when you answer your own questions.
Yes.
But to speak it out. So when you're alone at home, to speak to yourself, because when you hear what you're saying, it's a big alert to say, wow, is that really what I'm thinking? Because that's going to have a direct impact on how I feel.
So once you acknowledge these true elements, the facts that you've been given, for example, is there a way to shift how you feel?
Yes. You're going to shift it immediately. The minute you go to the truth and you say, wow, all that's true is the actual event. Everything else I've made up, that's already going to help. And then I like to make a choice. You really become your own coach. So what do I choose to do with this? And in the case of the story that I've said is, the truth is, I forgot to send out the invite. So I'm going to quickly send it out. And then I'm going to choose to let it go.
100%, it's done.
It's done. We make mistakes. What did we learn? I like to teach children that. Otherwise, it will upset the whole course of your day.
I actually had a conversation with someone yesterday, and I said to them, I was like, have you ever in your entire life, your whole time, been 100% right? Have you ever been wrong? Because no person has ever been
Me, I have.
100% right all of the time. So because of that, it's one of those things. You have to also give allowances to people that everyone messes up every now and again as well.
Absolutely.
Even yourself.
Yeah, no, I do. So Candace, what do we do for the rest of the week? How do we get started?
Again, definitely all our activities. We've already got the first one this morning on our Facebook and Instagram pages.
Yes.
I don't know if you ladies have managed to start doing any of those activities. I've actually got a question for you.
Okay.
Because once you're aware of this, it's almost like it gets highlighted.
Okay.
So did you notice last week, Laurie? I know you said you did, Sam, but
Yes.
did you notice last week that feelings that came up for you?
Yes.
And did you notice any kind of a theme in the feelings that came up? Was there specific things that were happening around those feelings?
Well, for me, I was getting very agitated because it was stuff that was out of my control. But the only thing that was in my control is allowing myself to not get agitated and then lash out because I was agitated regarding another issue.
Awareness.
Awareness.
Lovely.
Oh, next week is specifically for you.
Ooh, I'm looking forward.
All about what is in our control and why we need to control those things and how much suffering it causes.
Yes.
Lovely stuff. So Candace, of course, we're directing listeners to the Facebook page, and then every Saturday we have our workshop, correct?
That's correct. Our next one is this Saturday, the 24th of September, DC Coffee Shop. And we really have the full grit training that we offer to people. So it's the teachers, it's the corporates, and it's the children. And with that, I mean, the results are endless. And we've got so many testimonials, and they can find that all on our website.
Lovely stuff.
Fabulous.
Candace, thank you so much for joining us again. We'll see you same time, same place next week. If anybody is looking for powerful training for teachers, corporates, or children, as Candace said, they offer full packages as well. And the full grit training helps people to shift their perspective and empowers them to become their own pillars of strength, which has a direct positive impact on everybody around them.
Love it.
I love that. Right, back to the music.